Hello YouTube, this is Detroit Borg, and today we're going to do a retro unboxing of a 5th generation iPod. Now at the time this was known as the iPod Video. Today we call this type of iPod the iPod Classic. Now the 5th generation debuted in 2005, but this was sold in 2006. I purchased this from a coworker who barely used it, so it's in very good condition. Now let's just take a look around the box itself. On the front, of course, we have a picture of the white iPod with the Apple logo in the upper right corner. On the side, we have a picture of the side profile of the iPod. On the bottom, we have some product information, including the minimum specs needed to use this iPod or to sync this iPod to your content. At the time, it was Mac OS 10.3.9, Windows 2000 or XP, and iTunes 7. Of course, we also have some of the model number information. On the side, we have the silver Apple logo. On the top, we have some capacity information. And at the time, they needed to specify the fact that this iPod was compatible with both PC and Mac. And on the back of the box, we can see another photo of the iPod, this time illustrating the video capability of this iPod with an image of Pirates of the Caribbean. Now let's go ahead and slide this out. Designed by Apple in California. This is actually the back, so we want to open it this way. Of course, we see the iPod in the tray on the right, and in here are the accessories. Of course, when this was new, it would have had a plastic wrapper on it. And again, it's in very good condition. You can see some of the microfiber fuzz that's still on here from when I tried to polish it for this video. But otherwise, it's in very good condition, very few scratches. So let's just put this aside and take a look to see what's inside the box. So on the top, we have headphones, USB cable, and instruction manuals. I actually don't know what's in here. I haven't opened this up yet. Okay. Now in here we have the manuals. Of course, we have the big Apple stickers, product information, and the manual. Now we have the USB cable. This was the first generation USB cable, so it was longer with this larger dock connector with the release tabs on the side. We also have a dock adapter for universal docks. This looks like the original dock protector for the cable. So this would have been shipped with this on, and this would have been on the other end. Now with the white front plate, you can see that it's actually translucent. This sort of resembles the first generation and second generation iPod. Of course, on the front you have the click wheel with the center button. Nothing on the left side. On the top we have the hold switch, headphone jack, nothing on the side. Of course, on the bottom we have the 30-pin dock connector. Now let's go ahead and release the hold. Now, of course, we have the classic click wheel. And there is no content on here right now. So we go to music. We can search by artist, albums, songs, podcasts, genres, etc. You can even do a search. And you can type in a name. So if I want to search Coldplay, which I don't have on here right now. Under extras, we have some games. You get the idea. You can play solitaire. Stopwatch. So we can do a screen lock combination. So I have a clock function. We can add a clock. In my case, I want North America. And I want Detroit. Now under video, you have other options. You can change your video settings. TV out, TV signal, widescreen on or off. So I have a selection for video podcasts. I don't have any loaded. Music videos, movies, video playlists, etc. Now let's just take a quick look to see how this compares to the other previous generation of iPod Classics. So I've gone ahead and lined up my iPod Classic collection here. And you can see that on the far left is the first generation iPod from 2001. And now when you compare the 5th gen to the 1st gen, you can see it has a very similar design. It has the same clear translucent plastic front. Now this was a actual scroll wheel. It actually moved. This was touch sensitive, but the physical buttons were actually around the scroll wheel. They weren't part of the scroll wheel. This has all been integrated. Now the 2nd generation is also very similar. The scroll wheel became a touch wheel and the physical buttons stayed the same. And of course it was much thicker with the headphone jack toward the center of the top. And there was a cover for the FireWire jack up here. And of course there was no dock connector. The 3rd generation iPod was all touch sensitive. So it had a touch wheel with these touch sensitive controls. There were no physical buttons. Of course the 5th generation actually had a click wheel which you press down. This was entirely touch sensitive. This was also the 1st generation to introduce the 30-pin USB dock connector. It also had this white plastic front, and it was also translucent. You can kind of see the light shadows through the plastic itself, but it lost that hard edge on the side. Instead, it's much more rounded. Now the 4th generation was a further evolution, and it did introduce the click wheel we all know from the 5th and 6th generation iPods. The translucent plastic is gone now. Instead, you have this opaque white plastic. Now here we have the black 5th generation iPod. It does have this black front plate, which is also somewhat translucent. Of course, it's easier to see with the white iPod. It is a little thicker because it is a 60 gig model. So the 30 gig model is actually a bit more attractive just because it's so much thinner. So here we have the 6th and 7th generation iPod Classic. This is actually a 6th gen at 120 gigabytes. But the 7th generation is the same body style. Now they appear to be about the same thickness. Of course, this is holding a lot more capacity. The current generation is up to 160 gigabyte in the same size, while this was at 30 gigabytes. Now if you put them together, you can see the difference in size. Of course, the iPod Classic varied in size depending on their capacity. So some of these would have been thinner if they were the smaller capacity. So you can see some of the features have changed. So for example, the 1st and 2nd generation had these connectors around the headphone jack for headphone remotes. Same with the 3rd and 4th generation. They had a separate connector on beside the headphone jack. And the remote controls were eliminated for the last generation of iPod Classics and integrated into the headphone jacks. Now they all had hold switches. They've just changed their position. Now of course on the bottom we can see the appearance of the 30-pin dock connectors on the 3rd generation, while the 1st and 2nd generation used FireWire for both syncing and charging. So once again guys, this is Detroit Borg with a quick unboxing of a 5th generation iPod. Thanks for watching.